Amazingly, the sun is shining and the wind is not blowing. I'm standing in the middle of what should be, or I hope eventually will be, a gazebo, and we're looking down an aqueduct, which will not step down, but will rather be the base for a trough, I'll call it, that'll go right along the side of that barn, just below that shed roof that's coming down, which will all change. But there's going to be a skirt roof there, and the water will be carried over that summer kitchen, well, if it's that high or close, and then on down and over the real high water wheel that I talked about before, about a 24-foot water wheel. Or the water could be diverted to go down this aqueduct, and or head race really is a better name. And there, where that spool is, it'll have the option of turning that spool. It would be, the top would go toward the left, and then dropping, and then going on down and turning a second water wheel. Well, the spool was just the hub of a water wheel that'll be about 14 foot, 12, 14 foot. Or it could just go straight ahead, and just to the left of that cloth that's laying down there as a mulch, it will run another option of about a 24-foot water wheel, and in between the two is what I'm going to call Fraser Mill, in honor of the Fraser family, whose barn burned about 2, maybe 3 years ago now, I don't know, and that's what so many of these charred timbers come from. Let me see if I can, I'm standing on a bit of a precarious spot, but I'm going to try to turn and show you. Sorry about that. The water, now see, I'm diverting it. I'm not running it down through this head race. I'm diverting it. I'm letting it fall down beside. Alright, now I'm going to walk on up to the top of the hill. This is such a glorious day. But I maybe should say that water is coming on an almost dead level from the woods. That is a head race abyss, I might also call it. Oh, I know, there was another thing I wanted to say, and that's the extension of the Impossible Garden that you're looking at there, and the Impossible Garden is down there. But what I forgot to mention is down there beyond the Impossible Garden, I've found what I am quite convinced was the tipple for where the iron ore was tipped into what took it away. And I looked and looked to see where was that narrow railroad, where was it, where did it lay, and I actually now think it was right in the bed of the stream. That's where I think the rails were, and that's where it was tipped into. So I wanted to make sure I left a record of that. That over there is where I started these videos, up on that hillside. And that whole face right there was extremely mined for iron ore. Alright, now I am going to, I think I'm done with that. Now I'm going to head on up toward the top of that hill. On my way up, I pause here because I have not that's something different, but I have here a sawmill. Actually, the saw and the bearings are in the barn, and I don't intend to use them. That's the husk is what it's called. But what you're looking at right there is the rest of a sawmill, a Fakar sawmill, dates from about 1900. And I set it there because that's where I thought I was going to set it up, but I've changed my mind. I want to move it below that bis, below that water supply, to make this more open for maybe plowing, everything I always set up on a contour. But anyway, I just wanted to pause to point out that the makings of the pieces of a sawmill are right there. Well, here maybe this is more obvious that's what that is. This is railing that came from a barn that a little mini hurricane blew down. I went to help, fell through the floor where the guy had set kind of a trap, broke my back, not too bad. I didn't go to the hospital for it, and eventually went back and got timbers from it, and that was the railing that was at the very top for the hay, you know, the hay loader. Well, that's kind of a long story. Well, anyway, back on our trek to go up to the top of that hill. I'm standing at a point that I call the moot point, because I think it's a place where one could have a moot. Also, of course, it's a play on words. And as I pan around to show the mountain that wraps around this hill, I call that Maker Mountain in my literature, and this hill I call Healing Hill. I'd like to someday build a little mini temple here, maybe, or else nothing. Nothing might be better. But if it's a temple, it would be a temple to the four elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. But anyway, be a nice place to get married. In any case, I'm just kind of wrapping around to give you an idea. That land up there on the mountain belongs, that's been clear cut in the past, belongs to my sister and brother-in-law. And a lot of the land over there on to the east belongs to my cousin. Not a lot of it, but 300 acres of it. All right, we're going to head over that way. That's where I just was, and I just walked along the aqueduct. That's what I call it. I don't know what other name there could be for it. This carries water. It leads water across the saddle, so that the water actually can wrap that whole hilltop. And where does that water come from? Oh, and I had it made by my neighbor who used his little homemade backhoe, and it works. Where does the water come from? Well, it comes from this Biss, which I call Grandpa Jim Biss after my grandfather, and we're going to walk along that back into the woods. Where it actually dropped before the aqueduct was here, I called that Minnie Falls after Grandpa Jim's wife, Minnie Martha Nancy Bottenhorn Camp. That's my grandmother, whom I only met on her dying bed when I was about 2 years old maybe. Anyway, we're going to go into the woods to what is the goat fold.